All right, so today we have kind of a wild story time, and I can't wait to tell you the story of how I went to an estate sale at a funeral home slash mortuary. So let's get into it. Before I forget, this hoodie, it says Unhinged Streetwear, and I love catalyst is one of my favorite words. And a student at the University of Delaware had this streetwear brand, and so I bought this hoodie from him, and I really like the catalyst stuff. So I don't know why it says Unhinged. I think that was just the name of his brand, but I just want to get that out of the way because people were like, what does your hoodie mean? I don't really know. I just like the catalyst, okay, and supporting a local student. So this was a day trip that my dad and I took. This estate sale was kind of far from our house, I'm not gonna lie. It was in Bristol, PA, which was more than an hour from our house, and I barely convinced my dad to go with me to this estate sale. I really wanted to go. It just sounded very interesting. They had a lot of antique things. And the biggest thing was for just going to a funeral home and a mortuary to see all of the interesting things that they have. So this sale was put on by one of my favorite local estate sale companies. They're called Cohen Estate Sales, and I've been to several of their other ones, and I really like them because on the last day of the sale everything is 50% off, which is so cool. I have gotten a lot of stuff from them. My dad's gotten a lot of tools from their estate sale stuff. So anyway, this one was a little far. However, they literally had a room in this funeral home, which was also an old farmhouse, they called it, the family lived above. They had a room where they prepared dead bodies. I was just very interested. I thought it would be very, very interesting to go and just see what was there, because the pictures, that's another thing I love about this company, and this is in no way, they have no idea I'm doing this video, hopefully they're okay with it, but another thing I love about the company is they'll send out pictures beforehand, so you can tell, is this my vibe, do I like this stuff? And there were a lot of tools, because they had a garage with a bunch of tools, not mortuary tools, let me make that very clear, and a basement with a bunch of woodworking tools, stuff like that. So that's how I convinced my dad to go. But they also had this room where you would prepare the bodies, and they had a lot of tools. They had some coffins, some tombstones, some stretchers, but just a lot of things that you would use to prepare the bodies. So let's get into it. So first of all, this was quite a trek. We had to go into New Jersey. I live in PA, but to get there we had to go through New Jersey and then into this tiny little town. I really liked the town. I'll tell you later. We explored the town and it was the cutest little town. But anyway, so we parked, went in, and it was a 2-story building, so they had the viewing areas kind of in front. They had the mortuary room, and a mortuary is where you prepare the body, so it's a funeral home and a mortuary. And then they also had a second story where the family had lived, so it was a humongous sale. But when we walked in, pretty much the first room we went into was the mortuary room. And it was just very interesting. My dad was really freaked out. He would not really cross the line. The room didn't really have doors on it. It probably did at some point. And it hadn't been used for several years, I think. But it was, my dad just I don't even think I think he just subconsciously would not cross that threshold into the room. So I did take some pictures, so I'll be inserting pictures as I go here. But the room was very interesting. It didn't have bad vibes to me at all, but it did still give the impression of kind of an active mortuary. I mean, they had the machines that I think you pump out the bodily fluids to put the formaldehyde into bodies. They had things like eye caps and skull caps, and they had different wigs. They had a lot of the tools that were left. I mean, they had a lot of stuff that had been left, and so it did kind of look like an active mortuary room, which was just very, very interesting to me. I have watched a lot of crime shows, Bones and different stuff like that, and so I find all this stuff very interesting. Yeah, I don't know, I think in another life I was a science background. But anyway, that was a very interesting room, and they also had some coffins that they, I guess, hadn't sold, one of which was a baby coffin, which was really teeny tiny. And that was just kind of wild. I mean, when else in your life are you going to go to an estate sale at a funeral home and a mortuary where you see these things? They also had some like tombstones. They had one that said like Jane Doe on it. They also had like a stretcher that they would have used in the old days, I think, to carry the bodies in and out of places. They also had a lot of, you know, religious stuff. Like they had a pamphlet that just said hell on it. I was very intrigued about. They had a lot of Bibles and stuff there as well. So that was like a very interesting first room to walk into for sure. The lighting is like changing a crazy amount. What is going on with my skin tone? Goodness. But they just had a lot of interesting stuff in the rest of the house as well. I took some pictures of other stuff. They had a lot of books, they had a lot of kitchenware. My dad was pretty freaked out of just things in the house of like, you know, what did they use that with or on like the kitchen stuff, and I'm like, oh, you're being so dramatic. But yeah, it was just really interesting. They had some really like old like hats and stuff upstairs, which were really cool, with like some pheasant feathers, I think, and stuff like that. They also had some bags that you would put bodies in, I think, to contain, like it said, fluid precautions, which was really interesting. So I don't know, the tools themselves were kind of the most morbid things to me, of like seeing how you would actually prepare a body and the tools that are still there for that. So it was a very interesting experience. Again, like I said, I didn't feel any like bad energy from it or anything. It's just a room that a lot of dead people have gone through to have themselves prepared and then have their viewing in the, you know, front of the funeral home, I'm assuming. And so it was just a really interesting experience. And we did buy some things. The only thing I bought was a cone. I needed a really big orange cone for when our driveway washes out. So got one of those. My dad did buy some tools and found some not mortuary tools, let me make that clear, but he found some like woodworking and machinery tools in the garage. We found like a fireplace thing to hold wood, so we bought that. But I think all of it was like less than $30, so we did not go crazy. And the more you buy together, the less expensive it is too, the more you bundle, which is really cool. But I am a minimalist, so I didn't go in expecting I was gonna buy a bunch of stuff. It was more just for the interest, for the story. So yeah, it was a really incredible experience. Like I'm glad that I went to get to experience it. You know, I tried to stay respectful at all times, like I didn't take any video or anything, but it was really interesting. And the town itself was so cute. I took a bunch of pictures. It's right along a river, and that was absolutely beautiful. They had a little pier going out into the river as well. We sat for a little bit because we had been like at the estate sale for a while, and we'd also been driving for a while before that, and so we were really hungry. So we sat by the water, like away from other people, and ate some food. And I had a bunch of crumbs from the food I was eating, so I started feeding it to the birds, and they were the freaking cutest. Hi guys, just for you. Come here, buddy. And then later when we came back and we actually had gotten some ice cream, and then we came back and ate it by the water, we had some squirrels that were coming and hanging out, and I was like, oh my god, it's so cute. It was like a mother squirrel. You could tell she had been nursing, and she was so cute. And I was trying to get my dad to feed her, but he was pretty adamantly against that because I think he was nervous she would attack her or something. But she was very cute. Goodness, it's cute. Hi. Where'd you put it? Hi, buddy.
Buddy, I put it right there. See it?
He
right
says
there.
no.
There you go.
He wants you to hand feed him. Oh my god, he's so cute. Shut up. Look at that little face. You're very cute. Hi. What a sweetheart. Look at you. So yeah, the little town had a great downtown as well with all these little shops. So I went into a crystal shop and I got this shirt that said "Together is the only way." and I really liked the messaging of it. It was on sale, it was $10, and I really wanted to buy something from this crystal shop because I love supporting like small businesses like that. So that was really fun. None of the crystals were speaking to me, but it was like an all black shirt, and I was like, I love this. It was oversized, it was perfect for me. And then we also went into a little bookstore, and I went into the back of the bookstore, and I actually found one used book on Ikigai that I was just interested in learning more about Ikigai, which is this concept of how to find your life's purpose. So that was really fun. This was the book. I wish they didn't put the sticker on. I tried getting the sticker off, but it was gonna take off the book cover too. So left it on, but I'm really interested. I haven't read it yet because my brain fog has been so bad. I'm also having headaches every single day. I don't know if you can tell, my eyes are kind of closing on their own, and it's really hard to keep them open, and that's because of these really bad headaches that I've been having. So I don't know exactly what that is, but anyway, so yeah, we spent some time in this little bookstore. It was so cute, such a cute downtown. And so yeah, it was just like such a fun day. I saw a cool sticker that I will insert here as well, and there was a cool like sculpture downtown, so I was taking pictures of the art. On the way there, there was this really cool drawbridge that literally looked like it was up, but we went over it, so that was concerning. And I took one of my favorite black and white photos I've ever taken. So it was just a really fun day, like an outing, because it was really far away. And so yeah, once we were tired, and I get tired very quickly with my chronic illness, then we drove back, and it was kind of during rush hour, so it took a long time to drive home as well. But it was really interesting experience. And so I love estate sales. If you have never checked out an estate sale, one, they're very interesting. I find it so interesting to walk into somebody's home, usually it's at the person's home, and see how they live their life, like how they set up their home. You know, most of it is staged, but you get some sense of it. The architecture of different homes, I find all that stuff so interesting. Yeah, just seeing the things that somebody has collected throughout their life and that were very important to them. And you can also find some great deals on things that you're already looking for or as gifts for other people. And so yeah, estate sales are, I love them so much. Big fan of going to estate sales now. But this one was, I'm gonna say, by far the most interesting one we've ever been to. And the most funny thing was, I went into the kitchen and was like, Dad, you are never going to believe where this estate sale is that they've just announced and sent pictures. Guess. And he was like, a mortuary. And I was like, how did you guess that? My dad's a little psychic, but it's fine. So he doesn't believe that he has this gift, but I'm like, he is very lucky all the time, and he guesses things correctly a lot of the time. So anyway, I convinced my dad to go, and it was a really fun and interesting experience, and I'm grateful that I went and I got to experience it, kind of seeing the behind the scenes of some of those things that are taboo in today's culture, like death, talking about death and all of that kind of stuff. So it was a really interesting experience, and I'm really glad that I was able to go. So let me know, have you ever been in the behind the scenes of a funeral home or a mortuary? I never had been, except just for the viewing areas for people who have passed on, and you go to their visitations. But it was really interesting experience, and yeah. So hope this was an interesting video for you all, and I will see you in the next one. I'm gonna go lay down because this headache is getting worse the longer I talk. Bye, friends.